Okay, so we're going to go over these things during our call today. Wade is going to go through some details on assignments. I'm going to talk a little bit about creating groups for the gradebook sync. And we're going to talk about entering grades for assignments. If you don't do an assignment in Canvas, how you would enter those grades. Wade's going to go through the rubric tool. Remember to ask questions in the comments, and as we take turns presenting, we'll try to answer them, and then we'll answer questions at the end when we turn off the recording. So this recording will be available later today, and we'll send that out to you. So thank you for joining us today, and Wade is off on the first of our activities, so we'll let him go ahead and get started.
Okay. Here we got my course that we did yesterday that I applied the template to. And we're going to look at assignments today. So I'm going to look in this assignment tab over here on the left side. And I want to talk through what options we have as we set up assignments. I hit the new assignment button up here at the top. And it brings up my dialog here to make a new assignment. Things we need to think about as we're making a new assignment here. We have an assignment is going to show up in a kid's to-do list and their daily screen of things like that. Best practice in my mind on assignments is to anything that the kid, especially for our secondary people right now, where we're going to have half the kids in person and half the kids remote. Anything that you want kids to turn in, my suggestion is best practice is that we have an assignment to show up in their list of things to do, and we have a point where we can enter that grade. When we talk about the grade passback and those options there, that makes it possible to then, if you're thinking through, in my mind, and I'm going to tell you that for 3 years now, this will be my 3rd year at least, I do all my grade entry in Canvas. So therefore, I have an assignment that shows up on the kids' to-do list for every assignment, and I do all my grade entry in Canvas and then sync everything to Skyward. That's just my workflow that I work through as I do things, so that way I make sure that I get all my grades entered all the time. Can everybody else, can people see my screen? See Canvas on my screen? Okay. So we thinking through as we make these assignments, they don't always have to be something that kids are going to submit on Canvas, especially if you're going to adopt the theory of all the graded, you do all your grading in Canvas. You're going to sometimes make assignments that are just quick assignments that you just need to enter a grade for. Maybe it's an in-class thing or participation, things like that. So as I create an assignment here, I obviously have to give it a name. This is the same name that if you are going to sync later when we talk about that, that is what becomes the assignment name in Canvas, or in Skyward, excuse me. So give it something that makes sense. So maybe this is a bell ringer on 8/15. Any information that you want to put in the description here, if there's a document to attach or things like that, that can all go right here as you make the assignment. The number of points that you set the assignment to is what would sync across to Canvas, it would sync across to Skyward. It's also the grade we put in there. So maybe this is going to be a 10-point assignment. This assignment group here will be important when we talk about syncing in a little bit. This assignment group is what has to match the category you want it to go to in Canvas. In Skyward. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but maybe I want this to go under daily work. I always use display as points, especially if it's something that I'm going to sync across. Other options here, you could display as your letter grade. I don't know that we would do anything in GPA. You could do a complete, incomplete if you're just trying to check off whether they've done something. Options on submission types here. This is where we can look at how they're going to submit this. So it defaults to online. That's if they're going to turn something into us through Canvas. And then I have to check what options I want to allow. If I pick text entry, it's going to give them a text box so they can type a text box response, and all we see is just plain text for what they submit. Website URL, this could be something if you've had them do something in another website and you just want them to submit that back to you, just a link, you can click website URL. Media recording is going to allow them to use the media recorder or the media upload tool to send you back media. File upload lets them upload a file. Things to think about if you're going to have them send you back a video here, the difference between file upload and media recording. File upload, if they're going to send you back a video file, is going to make you download that video file to watch it. You're going to have to download it to your download folder and watch it on your computer. If you use the media recording option, they will then upload it to the media recorder and it will then encode it inside Canvas and you'll watch it back inside your browser without having to download it to your computer. So be cognizant of that and just think about what you want your workflow to look like on a media recording when it loads to you.
Wade?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Specifically, this is a question that I had some iffy experience with last spring. So I want to clarify here. I had students take photographs of artwork and do it as a file upload, which meant that I had to download it to see it. Is it better for students to use, I don't know, media recording to embed that artwork in the Canvas?
So depending on what type of file they upload, even an image, it should auto preview on inside the speed grader. If it's a JPEG, it'll auto preview. If they upload, like if they're using an iPhone and they transfer it with AirDrop to their Mac, it transfers. Apple's default image file format is, I think it's like HICC or something like that, or HIEC, I don't know, some other prefix that they use, or extension they use, which is like a high-res compact version of the images. And so when it's going between Apple devices, it keeps it in that format. If they upload that, then it does require you to download that to view it. If they upload it straight from their phone, it converts it to a JPEG if they're using the app on their phone to upload it. So it just it just depends on what we work with them on. Media recording is not going to let them upload an image. It's only going to let them upload like either an audio or a video file. So.
Oh. Okay, well, I was just trying to standardize that because I had such an influx last spring of, everything coming in all different ways.
Yeah. So I'll make a note of that to think through and try to get with you on ideas of how we can help them upload something that previews for you without you having to download it. Something new here that came out this summer is before you had an unlimited number of attempts by always, and that was the only option inside Canvas. So the only way to keep them from resubmitting it was to lock the assignment down by putting an end date on it. Now you can actually limit the number of submissions on an assignment. So you can choose limited if you want to and give them a total number of submissions. Issues that you could run into if you start limiting submissions on this side is, maybe they've uploaded it once, but it didn't upload right, or they uploaded the wrong file. Now, in order for them to upload a corrected file, they're going to have to contact you and you're going to have to allow them an additional submission. So just be aware of that if you switch that to limited, what that potentially does. Group assignments, I'm not going to get into that too much today. That's a topic that we can talk about later, but Canvas does have the ability to allow you to put kids into a group and then they can submit one file for every kid in that group. Like at the group together, one person submits it, and then that's the submission for everybody. And then when you grade it once, and then that grade can go back out to everybody in that group. A little more involved in that, so I'm not going to discuss that today. Also, peer review does allow you to send files back to other people and other kids in the class and have them peer review a file. It auto assigns things like that. So another topic we can talk about at a later time. The synced SIS is what we're going to focus on later in today's session. If we check that box, that's what allows us to send the grades back to Skyward. And then your assigned to. Things to consider in this assigned to. By default, it's going to go everyone. If I erase everyone by hitting the X, I get some other options. I can assign this to everyone, so everybody's in this course. If I had multiple sections of this course cross-listed together, I would see those sections here and I could pick a specific section if I wanted to. I also see individual students down here that I can send it to. Most of the time, everyone or probably a section is what you're doing. But things to think about as you pick these things here. If we want to do different due dates, then you might need to pick different sections or different sections with different due dates. If you are going to sync grades between Canvas and Skyward, you have to have a due date for that to sync. And if you start breaking these down, each section has to have a consistent due date. So you can't assign it to individual students and have their due dates different than their section. You could do it that way in Canvas, and then eventually you'll need to go back and change it. Basically, because Skyward, when it sees it, it needs to see one due date for that whole class in Skyward. So let's go ahead and give this assignment a due date. Let's say it's due today. You can edit the time if you don't want it to say midnight. You could do it as specific as a class period or the end of a class period or whatever you like.
The question from the chat is about late kids turning it in late. The question was, how do you know when someone turns in something late? So I mentioned that you could put when it's available till, but is there another way to tell when someone turns it in late?
So if it's submitted after the due date, Canvas marks it late. So when you go to grade it, it's going to show you that it was late, and it kind of turns their submission time into red text instead of black to tell you when they submitted it, so you can see in comparison to when the due date was. So Canvas does automatically flag it that it was turned in late if it's submitted after this due date here. You can in Canvas, it does have the ability, I haven't done it yet, to automatically deduct points based off of a late work policy. You can kind of set up some rules in there and have it do some of that. But I don't know how feasible that is right now with how it functions, because with like block scheduling and that type of thing for certain things, it takes it purely like number of days that it's going to deduct from. So it's not necessarily going to take into account block schedules, that kind of thing. The available from and until. This is kind of an important one to consider. Available from, whatever date range you put in here, that is when the kids can see the assignment and access it. If you put an available from, so they can't see it before that time, I can see that be useful if you don't want them to see it before the class period starts or have access to it before your class period starts. Then set an available from. You can pick as specific as you want at the time, and you could even go like, maybe I want this to show up at 11:15 a.m. or my class is going to start then. And then so they can't actually access that assignment until that time. Be careful on this until though. If you if you set this until at the same time as the due date, now nobody can submit that assignment after that until time. Things to think about there: if you have a kid that's absent and needs to make up work, now you have to go back in and reopen that assignment for them to submit it, or they have to submit it a different way to get it to you because they're not going to be able to submit it right there. So totally up to you. It's not going to affect anything. Just know that if you put it until time, after that time, kids cannot submit an assignment to this submission because it's going to shut off for them. And there may be scenarios where you have to work through how you get that work from them.
Do you get a late notification of late work if kids have a late work? Will there be any kind of notification of that, or do they just need to look in the grade book?
Depends on how you have your notifications set up. If you have it set to email you, like every time somebody submits something, then it would show up there. I'll also show you here in a second where you see like work that's sitting to be graded at, where that shows up at. And so it would show up there that you have something else to grade. I didn't pick anything there. Due date can't be before that. Okay, this course is, I forgot. Go away. I'm using my actual class, and so it's yelling at me because this due date is before the semester starts. Come on, let me pick something that's inside the semester. There we go, save. So now I have this assignment here. The kids can't see it till I hit the publish button. So when I'm ready, I will hit that publish button for the kids to see it. Let's go ahead and talk rubrics because I'm right here and it's right in front of us here. So this little button here that says plus rubric, this can be really helpful if you're going to do the grading online, which if you're doing a submission here, even if you're doing a grading in class and you have a rubric, the rubric tool is pretty powerful. So it lets us do a criterion criteria here, and then a rating scale and the total number of points. You can also find a rubric, maybe if you've already made one, anyone you've ever made can be found and you can reuse. So here's all my courses and rubrics that I have there. If there are rubrics that say your building has some pretty standard rubrics that they use, at the district level, we can actually create those rubrics and have them available to everybody. So for example, here, at one point in time, we created this LHS oral presentation rubric that I think the English department had developed, and we uploaded it here into Canvas. And so anybody that wanted it can have access to that and start using it. So if there are things like that, that as you start working through this, that you feel like would be powerful for your whole building, or a subset of your building, maybe it's a whole department, we can work through it, helping get those on there. So those are rubrics that are already there and created. You can create one right here on the fly. So for example, let's call this rubric my bell ringer rubric. I can give my criteria description. So maybe this is gonna be, I don't know, on time, whatever. I'm just making stuff up here. So and maybe it's gonna be all or nothing. Maybe it's gonna be 2 points if they got it turned in on the day that it was due, or no points. They either did it or they don't. I can add another criteria. Maybe I wanna call this content. On these descriptions here, I can go in here and I can put in like a rating description. So like the bell ringer was turned in on time. Then that shows up in that little description there as a sub description. Content, maybe I'm going to say content is worth 5 points. There we go. So it's total 7 points because I made the assignment 10. The rubric does need to match the number of points for the assignment if we want to use it for grading. So I got 3 more points to go. Let's do another one. Maybe this one is
Neatness.
Neatness. Okay. There we go. And so, and it's going to be 3 points to give me my 10 points there. So notice here, I've got 5 and 0. Maybe I need to put in some, middle ratings, some points inside there. Give it a name to get things, between them. So I've got a 10-point rubric here, very generic for simplicity's sake in what we're doing right now. You can choose some options down here as you start to do this. All right, free-form comments when assessing students. If you do that, then these ratings go away, and you can just put in a number of points, and then you type in a comment for that category. If you don't want to use, if you're not going to grade with it, you don't want number of points to show up, you can remove the number of points, and you can just pick things to give them feedback. You can use this rubric for assignment grading. This is where the powerfulness of that comes in. So if I click that and I click create rubric, now I've got this rubric here. That when I show you in SpeedGrader here in a second what that looks like, that is going to be helpful. So let me go into my student view real quick and just submit something for this assignment for test students. That way when I go to grade something, I can show you what that looks like. So let me find Bellinger. I didn't publish it, did I? How about I pass it over to Bethany and she can talk about grade syncing, and I will get this assignment ready to go, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to grade it in SpeedGrader and the rubric there after that.
Okay. All right, so we are going to switch gears a little bit here. And here I am, there we go. Okay. All right, so I am in a math course, and we're going to talk about the categories that you have to use in order for Skyward and Canvas to sync for the gradebook. And this is new for elementary teachers. This year is the first year we've ever been able to use that. So we're going to talk about the categories that elementary teachers can put in, but you can also, but in the high school and middle school, I believe you can choose from all the different categories. In the elementary school, we choose from, our administrators have said, in-class work or test quiz combination. So those are the two categories that we can use. So let me show you what that would look like. One thing that you have to remember is you have to be in the course that matches up with Skyward. So I have to be in my math course in order for my grades to sync to Skyward. I can't use homeroom, which was what many of us used last year. So I'm going to go ahead to assignments. And this is what's a little bit new and different that we'd have to think about is you have to have a group with the category code or the name of the category, and it has to be put in exactly as it is in Skyward. If you go to Skyward and you click on the column that says categories, they're listed there for you to look at. So I am going to go to plus group, and I'm going to add a group name. So as I said, we have in-class work for elementary or test quiz combination. Well, instead of typing in test quiz combination, there's a short code and it's TQU. So you just type it in exactly like that and click save. Our other group code is in-class work, which is ICU. So I'm going to save that one too, just to kind of show you what it looks like. So now when I'm ready to add an assignment, I can click plus assignment, and this is the same if you add a quiz. You would just choose one of these two groups, and I'll show you where that part comes up. So if I click plus assignment, I want to give the assignment a name, and like Wade said, you want to make sure that whatever you name your assignments in Canvas is the same that you would name them in Skyward. If you're doing the grade passback, it won't matter because it'll go over to Skyward automatically. So I'm just going to call this fractions, and then I might put the date. So I'd do 8/14. And then you would put your assignment in there or give the kids directions, or you could put a PDF in there. Give them points. So this right here where it says assignment group, that's where you want to make sure that you choose the group it would go in. So this is just in-class work, so I want to choose the in-class work button there. I'm going to keep continuing down. This is going to be a text entry. They're only going to respond to, maybe I just typed a couple of questions here that they're going to respond to. Again, with the allowed attempts, I'm going to say that they have a limited amount of attempts and they can try to turn it in twice. I'm going to continue down. Now I have to make sure that I click this button that says sync to SIS. I'm going to click that. And I'm going to assign it to everyone, as Wade said. If you want it to sync correctly, you need to do that. And then for a due date, you have to have a due date here for it to work to sync to Skyward. So I'm going to put in the I'm going to put in the 17th since it was the 14th that the kiddo was working on it. And then I'm not going to put available from and until. I may just publish it. I would publish it that day. I'm going to go ahead and publish it now just so you can see. So if the kiddo, let's say the kiddo completed the assignment and I went ahead and gave them a score. So I would have seen their assignment speed grader would have given them a score. So I'm just going to put the score in here to show you what the next step would be after you had taken a grade. So let's say he received 4 out of 5 points for that assignment. When all of my students are completed, all the assignments are completed, I would go right here where it says actions. So when I have all the scores or the due date has come, so the scores are going to be what the scores are going to be, I go to actions and I click sync to post grades. And it says there is an error. Assignment group doesn't match a Skyward grading category. So just like that, we tested it earlier and I used the TQU, but maybe, let me check the comment code real quick. Hold that up. For in-class work. In-class work. Oh, well, that makes sense. So it should be a W there for in-class work. So I'll have to go back and edit that. It's not ICU, which is what I wrote down on my notes. It would make sense that it would be ICW, in-class work. So that would make sense for that. So let me go back here. The other thing I wanted to talk about while I kind of go in here and fix that is, as elementary teachers, we do a lot of work, and being in the classroom as we start school, we do a lot of work that also may not be in Canvas. There might be an assignment that they're doing using pencil and paper. So you can kind of choose if you want to add that as an assignment in Canvas and then go ahead and sync it over into Skyward, or you can just take that assignment into Skyward and add it over there. It kind of depends on where you do the majority of your grading. If you do the majority of your grading in Canvas, then I would just go ahead and add that assignment and put the scores in for the students in Canvas and go ahead and sync it over. That way you're only working with one grade book. But if you continue to do a lot of your grading in Skyward directly, you can go over there. So it's really up to you which one you would want to do. So let's see here if I can edit that.
I'm confused.
So it would be ICW. And we have a list of all of those codes, and I'll make sure to send those out to elementary teachers as we go to get closer to the school year. I think, let me see, we'll go in here. I don't know if it'll work now since I had that code wrong. I think. Oh, now it looks like it's going to work. So now this is what it should look like. Ready to post, and when you post it, it will go into Skyward. Sometimes it takes a few seconds, a couple of minutes, and then once you go over to your Skyward gradebook, you'll see that those scores in there. Sorry about that typo that caused that error. So I think that is it. Wait, if you're ready to switch back for rubric.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Thinking back, or now I have, while Bethany was working through that, I went in as the test student and I submitted this assignment. Now, how I know, the question you guys, a couple of you are asking is, how do I know when people have turned things in? On my course homepage here, so I'm on my homepage for this course, on my to-do list, so this is where students would see what they have to submit. We as teachers see what things we have to grade. So I can see I've got one of this grade bell ringer 815 here sitting to be graded. I've got one of those to grade. Also, people ask about notifications, like email notifications for late work and things like that. An update that Canvas has released now lets us do edit our notification preferences by course. Students and teachers can do this now. Before, we had to have generic notification preferences for our whole account. Now we have a button here on the right side that on our homepage that says View Course Notifications. If I click that, I can adjust the preferences of how I get notifications in this course. What I have here is the options for notifications here. So I can set up email, I can set up SMS messaging. I believe this actually is now defunct, I believe. I don't know why it still showed up there. Twitter, push notifications, whatever notification method you have set up. Push notifications would be if you have an app on a mobile device, how it pushes in the mobile app. So things in through here, one option here is late grading. So if I only want to get notifications on when things are submitted late, I have the option here. I can either have it send me an email note immediately. I have things set to send me a daily summary on my email notifications. So each day I get an email at the end of the day of anything that was submitted. I also have late grading. I have all submissions. So anytime somebody submits something, I can also set that to notify me at the end of each day for any submissions if I prefer things like that. So there's where you could, yes, you can granulate out whether or not you get an email for late ones or all of them. And it'll tell you what was submitted. So that's on my homepage of the course. And then on the right side over here, once it decides to load, course notifications. Looking at how do we grade something that was submitted? If I click it here, I can also do it from inside my assignments. But if I just click right here on my to-do list, it's going to take me to SpeedGrader, which really is a pretty cool tool that is available inside Canvas. I uploaded a PDF as my file upload here of the Canvas parent access because I had that saved in my downloads from yesterday. So there's that. I can see what the kid submitted here. If it's a PDF, it's a Word document, a PowerPoint, Excel, a JPEG. Those common file formats will auto preview right inside here, and I can actually annotate and make notes on those. I didn't prep for it. I'm not plugged in right. You can do it on your iPad as well and annotate right on these things. But if I'm doing it on my computer, I can, I can draw on here if I need to. If I want to circle something, I can drop a text box in. I can say, okay, great job, whatever I might want to do there. I can change colors, that kind of stuff. To grade this using the rubric that we set up, now over here on the right side, you'll see I have a view rubric button. I could just type in a grade, or I can click view rubric. Depending on what we have in our rubric, we may want to expand this over. Now I see this rubric. I can say, okay, I can just click on these boxes and I can give them those grades based off of those rubric categories. I can also choose to custom type in something. So maybe I want to give this kid a 1 point and I want to type in a comment, not on time, which I would have really probably just set that up to have another category, but whatever, I can do that as well. Down here, I hit save. And then now you see that score that they had on this rubric is now their score for that assignment. And that's what would show up in their grade book. You also have your comments down here. You can do additional comments. We also have this option down here to attach a file to the comment section here. You can also do a media comment. If I click this media comment button, it's going to load the media recorder here. And I could then record them a video message or just an audio message if I just click microphone. If I click microphone, I could do that, or I can upload them a media recording file as well. So if it was something where, maybe I want to give them feedback on an English assignment or something like that they've written, and I want to go through it and I want to give them verbal feedback as I'm doing that, I can do that right inside Canvas as well. This little dictate button is a speech to text is an option there too. So that is SpeedGrader. If I go, after I've done that, and if I go over to my grade book, now I will see that grade show up in my grade book. And if I had this set up to sync that grade, then we could follow that sync process that Bethany showed you, and it would send that grade to Skyward. I think Bethany talked about this, but I'll just reiterate to you that when you're syncing grades between the two, be aware that the most recent change, wherever it happened, is what's going to take precedent. So for example, I set up an assignment and then I graded all of them that had been submitted. I put zeros in for the kids that had not submitted it in Canvas, and I synced it over to Skyward. Sounds right. And then once that goes over there, that's what's in Skyward. If you have zeros in, it does not mark the missing button inside Skyward. If you're, I know our secondary folks use that missing chunk in there quite a bit to notify parents and things like that. You would then need to open Skyward up and check the missings if you want that checked. Now thinking through, now if a kid turns that assignment in later, and now you need to update that grade, if you update that grade directly in Skyward, okay, you're fine for the time being, but next time you go back to Canvas and you hit that sync button again, it's gonna override that change you made in Skyward. So my suggestion to you is if it's anything that you did in Canvas and synced across, to always make those grade changes in Canvas and re-hit that sync button to transfer that change over into Skyward. Yeah, Rhonda.
I have lost track of how you got to this gradebook page.
Okay. So when I was in my SpeedGrader, there was a button in the top corner that just showed gradebook, but also if I'm on my left-hand navigation inside my course, it's the grades tab on the left side.
And it's automatic. I don't have to set that up. It's already there.
It's already there, correct. Yep. And so any assignment that you've created inside Canvas shows up along here as a category here. There are some ways we can filter this and things like that. For example, if I go to view and I show filters, I can do them by assignment groups or modules. I can arrange them in different ways how I want to. I can also, if I check this, that it unpublished assignments don't show up or show up. That's kind of what I do when I bring all my content in. If I go through and I unpublish things that I don't need yet, then they don't show up in the grade book if I have that checked.
So Canvas, Canvas creates this every time I put an assignment in. Canvas
As long
does
as you
the
create,
work.
correct, it adds the column to the gradebook as long as you create the assignment in Canvas.
Man, I don't remember seeing this before. I did SpeedGrader last spring, but I don't remember seeing this before.
So anything
So,
you would have used, any grade you would have graded in SpeedGrader would have shown up inside this gradebook.
huh, okay. All right.
Any other questions at this point? Anything else that I can, nothing that you can think of that I forgot that was on our list?